Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks provides unique mentoring opportunities to enhance your modeling skills by connecting with talented modelers and manufacturers from around the globe who generously share their knowledge and artistic expertise. Build your confidence, refine modeling techniques, and share your projects with a supportive community of fellow modelers, all while enjoying the world's most rewarding hobby. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom and YouTube for our free live program. Missed a program? No problem. Individual show segments are uploaded to YouTube for convenient on-demand viewing. Be sure to connect with the New Tracks community by joining the New Tracks Facebook page, where you can interact with other modelers and see what they are modeling. Visit our website at www.newtracksmodeling.com, where you'll find information about upcoming events and the latest issue of our magazine, New Tracks Modeler. New Tracks Modeler features articles from builds on the show, exciting new products, and other great articles. And now, here is the host of New Tracks Modeling, Tom Farrell.
Good evening, and welcome to New Tracks Modeling, streaming live on Zoom and YouTube, just as we do every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're pleased you're here. Whether you're a seasoned modeler or new to the hobby, or just enjoy the show, we welcome you. This broadcast, along with our 5 other platforms, which include the live program you're watching now, our New Tracks website, our Facebook page, our New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship Program, and our new New Tracks Modeler digital magazine, is part of a broader vision created by Jim Kello, Master Model Railroader and New Tracks mentor. All platforms are offered free of charge and all supported by a dedicated team of volunteers who are passionate about model railroading. Before we board our first-class train tonight, I want to sincerely thank Brennan's Model Railroading for sponsoring this evening's program.
Tonight's New Tracks Modeling Meetup is sponsored by Brennan's Model Railroading. For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products focused on the O-scale market. Their flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. The prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, Brennan's has developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Brennan's also has craftsman kits that anyone can build. The complete photographically illustrated instructions assume you've never done this before, and explain in step-by-step detail how to create an outstanding model. The Frank Ellison Tribute series of kits are amazing additions to any layout. These kits take Frank Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level using modern methods and materials with Dennis Brennan's additional details and amazing instructions. See the complete line of products on the Brennan's Model Railroading website. Use the QR code to visit.
Now, although our expenses are nominal, if it weren't for sponsors like Brennan's Model Railroading, we couldn't have the show. So I encourage you to support Brennan's Model Railroading. He has a new structure in his Dennis Brennan signature series, the Garfield Substation. And I apologize for my late start on the build along with this, but the timing was just poor with the narrow gauge convention having just recently transpired, and I had a structure there and I had to give a couple of presentations, and I just couldn't get it together to do the build along, which will begin next week. And that is a marvelous kit. And if you act right now, there is a $20 discount. You just put in NEWTRX and the kit lists for $159.95. You'll get a $20 discount. And even at $159.95, that kit's a bargain. There's an enormous amount of components to that kit. It is a 5-star laser cut kit, and it's a marvelous looking structure at home on virtually any time period and any layout. So check out Brennan's Model Railroading. Go to his website. A lot of neat products there. Now, let's take a look at what's coming down the main line on tonight's show. This evening, we're going to feature Carroll Creek Designs, some of their new products. Both Bob Gelmacher and Ryan Vigus are friends of the show. We're happy to support them. They do marvelous work. And as I have said in the past, these, quote, cottage industries are the historical and fundamental large scratch build that I completed narrow gauge convention. And then our very own Phil Edholm will feature photographs from some of the layouts that we visited there. I think you're really going to like what you see. They're not all narrow gauge. There's some HO layouts there as well. So it's going to be an exciting show. And then we've got a Caboose, of course, the Detroit Model Railroad Club's Union Station. So before we begin, I'd like to run a little video on the New Tracks Modeling Scholarship Program.
The New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship is the only national scholarship for model railroaders from a volunteer nonprofit organization. For academic year 2025-26, we are awarding 4 $2,000 scholarships for model railroaders pursuing a STEAM degree. We hope to award a similar number of scholarships for the 2026-27 academic year. We believe it is critical to support the next generation of model railroaders. You can support the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship by donating online using the Zephy platform or directly by check. All donations are tax deductible.
At the conclusion of this past week's National Model Railroad Narrow Gauge Convention, we had a award banquet, if you will, and the people that put together the show gave me 5 minutes to talk about the New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship. And after I introduced myself, I asked the question, I said, just out of curiosity, how many people are familiar with New Tracks modeling and the scholarship? And I'm guessing there must have been roughly 300 or 400 people in the audience, maybe 400, and more than half raised their hand. So we have very high brand recognition. So when I heard that, I said, well, if I use my axiom, I said, well, we get about the same number of participants watching New Tracks Live, 300 or 400, and then there's 300 or 400 of you out there in the audience. Just for a moment, if every one of you donated $10, and anybody attending the narrow gauge convention can certainly afford $10. That would be 10 times 300 or 10 times 400. That would be 2 to 4 scholarships right there with a single $10 donation. And that's true with this evening's show. $10 is not going to hurt any of you guys. That would make $3,000 or $4,000 and cover us for 2 to 4 scholarships. We'd like to do 2 things this coming year, this 2026 year. We'd like to increase the number of scholarships and increase the value of the scholarship to make it truly, it will give it much higher visibility if we could double the number and double the size of the scholarships. It's not impossible based on, our New Tracks Modeler magazine has a circulation of over 10,000. It's literally small donations can make this happen. So I encourage you to not just listen to my rhetoric every single week, but take the time to make a nominal donation. It's necessary it's one way you can promote the hobby going forward for the youth who are critical to keep this train going. So, I don't know if Bob Davison's on. No. Okay. Let's begin the show. I'd like to introduce Ryan Vigus and Bob Gelmacher from Carroll Creek Design. They're going to be the first ones on this evening. They've got some new products and things that they want to share with us. Welcome to the show tonight, guys. It's all yours.
Okay, first of all, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So tonight's going to be a split between Ryan and myself, and we're going to talk about very quickly some of the old stuff that we've done, but some of the new stuff also, some of the new products that we're coming out with. And we welcome any questions, and we also welcome any suggestions. When we get to one part today, I know that Steve Sherrill was on last week with a number of you guys and made some recommendations, and we're going to incorporate those recommendations into one of our products. So please feel free to be as critical as you want. And we welcome, like I said, any suggestions. Anyway, when we first started out, our goal was to buy and maybe sell. We weren't sure whether we were going to sell anything, some of our rolling stock. But as any company goes, as it kind of grows and matures, we really have found out what our sweet spot's going to be. And here's a couple of the points. We want to design and sell economical models. We know we're never going to get rich doing this, but we'd like to sell them so that they're affordable for almost anybody. At first, we started with ON30, but we've realized now that there's a need in multi-scales. So as you'll see, we're going to be talking about 2 or 3 other scales as well as ON30. And we also wanted to, because we're talking about baseline models, all the details aren't going to be there. And we did that deliberately because it allows the modeler to customize that model any way we want. And we were fortunate enough to have at the narrow gauge convention several of our products customized, and some of those actually won awards, and we were really, really happy about that. We're going to address both rolling stock and motive power. So, we're talking about anything in the motive, the rolling stock line, but also a number of engines. And we're also changing a little bit because everything up to now has almost always been ready to run. We're also going to include some kits, and I think that's one of the things that Steve Sherrill showed you last week. Like I mentioned, our first attempt was into ON30, but now we're doing ON30, ON18, and also the newest product, which is the GN15 that Ryan is doing a lot of producing. And initially, when we started, we were doing it based on things that we could see. For me, it was the Bachmann flat car and using that as a model. But now we've gotten to the point and we've been able to get enough skill in some of the CAD that we can design our own products. Just some of the things that we've done, and we've talked about these before. These are a couple of the ON30 12-footers that we put together, a couple of gondolas and a flat car. Some of the tenders, we have, these are ON30, so we have a fluted top tender. We also have a rounded tender and also a tender that can be customized for wood or coal. And then more recently, we found that a lot of folks are really liking the 18-foot models. They're a little bit bigger, of course, than the 12-foot models. And 3 of the ones that we've come out with are the flat car you see here. And the flat car comes with a wood deck, a gondola, and also a work car. And the latest thing that we've been working on are these box cars. And this is what I think Steve was talking about last week. And Ryan started by making a box car, and we thought that was something really good that we could develop. These are ON30s, and there's a couple of versions. Number one with the closed door and also with an open door. And right now, this is all one piece. So we're working on refining that model so that the door opens and closes. And if we can get that just right, then it will eliminate having to carry multiple types of cars in stock. We can put one car out there and the modeler can open the door or close it as they will. All of our 18-foot models come with underframe detail, and you can see that underframe detail here. So we're printing all this, and then we're adding that before we actually send the car out the door. All of the open 18-foot open door box cars will be furnished with wood decks and interior treatment. And again, this is what Steve mentioned to me this week. The interior treatment right now, what we're thinking is to actually print some vinyl labels, if you will, and cut them to size and include them with the kit. And if we find out that that's not exactly what works, then we'll actually laser cut some wood and include that with the kit. And then again, all of our ON30 models, all of our products, whether they're the 12-foot or the 18-foot, all come with trucks, wheels, and couplers. Our initial go through over the last year or so was to actually install the couplers and the trucks on the various cars. But when we boxed them up, we found out if those particular cars didn't sell, then we had a lot of stranded investment because those trucks, wheels, and couplers were in a box that we couldn't reuse. So what we're doing now is we're including them, but we're including the wheels, the trucks, and the couplers packaged separately. So if you were to get, or if anyone gets any of these products from us, they get the base carcass, if you will, and then a bag with the wheels and couplers. And it's the only thing that has to be done is to install those on the car. And then the latest thing that I've been working on is, and I saw it in, what is this? I have the July-August 2025 Narrow Gauge Gazette, and they had a couple of pages of cars that were developed in G scale. And I saw this, and this is a water car. So we're doing that in 18-foot. It'll be on the same chassis as our other 18-foot models are on. And Ryan and I just talked about it last night. We're probably going to reduce this down to the 12-foot version also. And other things that we have on the drawing board that we're just starting with right now is some ON30 motive power, and that could be the Shea, the Porter, and various diesels. And right now we're basing a lot of that on the trolley mechanism that Bachmann puts out. It seems to be a pretty reliable mechanism, but we're still looking. So if there's other mechanisms that we find that we can adapt for our purposes, we will do that. And again, any recommendations that anybody has along those lines, we really welcome them. I mentioned too that we're getting into ON18, and Ryan has done a lot of work on this. So Ryan, if you want to take over and talk about ON18, go ahead.
Okay. The ON18 blossomed for us probably about 2 Harrisburg shows ago, and almost 3 now. And the ON18 with the micro explosion that people have gotten into, really the basis and the premise was to have O-scale structures that most of us have sitting around that aren't being used on the layout at any given time, and to get them utilized and to have something that can be in a micro form that you can take to shows, meets, and show it off. You don't have a full layout. So as we started delving into the ON18 world, there wasn't a whole lot out there. And we decided after one of the Harrisburg shows to get into it. And it has taken off. Sat down, we did base engines, started with the Shea, and has grown. And then the rolling stock has grown from 4-axle 2 trucks to a 2-axle truck. We've worked out link and pin couplers for them to go on the micros so they can take an extreme radius. We have done everything virtually from the ground up on the ON18. We still have a big hang up, which is the wheels. We have based our trucks and our cars just on a basic N scale wheel. Typically some of the older, like the Rapido and the Atlas wheels that are silver, they have the larger flans on them, and they tend to hold a lot better. We are trying to source some larger wheels to make it look a little more prototypical. But unless you have a pretty extensive machine shop, it's very difficult to get anything in small batches. We have found wheels that are available, but when you start adding $20 to $35 for a set of wheels to any of the kits, it just makes it out of this world. So right now, we're still basing it on the N scale wheels of the old. You can find them at any train shows. Sometimes you can pick them up for $2 and $3 an N scale car, scrap the car and take the wheels. pretty readily available, and they seem to be pretty reliable. Steve Sherrill's got some stuff that he uses and runs them, and I've had 2 or 3 micros at shows, and they run 8 to 10 hours a day for 2 days and virtually have no problems with them. We have quite a few number of different cars. I'll go to the next slide.
And Ryan, I before you go on, I'd like to add, I mentioned before that at the narrow gauge show, a couple of our products won awards with the way people had done a lot of weathering. And it's this Porter and I believe it's this Shea that were modified. And the modeler did just a great job in making it look so much better than just the plain black that we have here.
Yes. There's some other customer photos and some stuff that I have done. We've added some mufflers. We have those available, brake wheels available. As you can see in the center one, you don't have to use the Lincoln pins. You can use standard HO couplers. That's a 146, which gives you the extra long drawbar, which will be able to handle some of the curves that you'll encounter on some micros. We've delved into, on the left, the interurban. We have 3 different styles of the interurban locomotive, and these will take, in most of everything that you see, a Cato 11109 drive, but we have altered in the interurban locomotives to take the 11106 2-truck drive. So that has been worked out. We also have a rail truck that can take both the 11109 and the 11106 dual drive on the rail truck. So many different options, many different things to go into, anything you would need in a small industrial railroad. The 2-truck cars that we've come up with, basic in, and it's a given. A lot of these ON18 cars were based off of drawings from the Borax mine. They ran an 18-inch gauge, and they had 2-axle cars. So what I did is I went in and took a look at some of their flat cars that they used to haul stuff around, and the Borax hoppers, and kind of took the measurements from them, and then said, well, if they were going to do a 2-truck car, what would they do? And we came up with about a 13-foot long car, and based on about 5.5 to 6 feet wide. And that's what we built upon on the underframe, and we've gone up. We've got flats, gondolas, hoppers, tank cars, box cars, all running. And as you can see on the center one, those are the N scale wheels, which are the silver wheels that you can find. And they are the ones with the deeper flanges. They tend to work a lot better. And again, the 146 couplers, which extend the length of them to handle the tight radiuses. We've come out with a 2-axle version. Just about everything is mirrored. There's our 2-axle hopper. It's a side hopper. That photograph doesn't show the side chute on it. It was added later. The side chute and a hand wheel is also located on the side of the current steel hoppers. We have a 2-truck log car, skeleton log car, and a bulkhead flat car. So a wide range of different cars, different rolling stock. And again, these are basic models. They are set to give you a starting point, and you can go from there. We've added a couple different ON18 cabooses based off of a bobber and a 2-truck. All of these undercarriages are designed by us. These take the metal wheels also, so that is completely even across the board on all of our rolling stock.
Did anybody catch the mistake? The plural of caboose? Caboose?
Caboose.
Just thought I'd throw that in. And now introducing our GN15 entries. And Ryan, take it away.
The GN15 came about actually in the last 3 months. Everything that you have seen here has been developed and designed in the last 3 months. We've taken the base models of what we did for ON18 and ON30, and not only scaled them, but added some features to them. These GN15 actually was a couple inquiries from across the pond over in the UK, where GN15 is quite large, has a quite large following, running on HO track. So basically a 15-inch gauge track in the G scale, but G scale is an umbrella. G scale has number of different scales: 1/24, 122.5, 120.3, 129. I mean, you can keep going on and on. So I had one gentleman with 1/24 scale, and I had another gentleman that was running FN15, which was 122 and 0.5. So I didn't want to. The one big thing is you don't want to keep doing different designs. So we came up with a compromise, and it's about 11 millimeters per foot. It will handle a 1/24th figure. It'll handle a 122.5 figure. It's basically set. All of our motive power for this is on the Bachmann trolley right now. I do have the center cab that you see that is actually a little bit more elongated, that is running on a Bachmann S4 chassis with sound and DCC. So we have those capabilities with GN15, basically 11 millimeters per foot. Here's an open cab, little industrial loco, basic, all on the same chassis. And then you're adding whatever cab that you want on them. The link and pin couplers that I designed for the ON18, I've now designed for the GN15, but these will also take KD couplers. So you can get the G scale KD, you can get the O scale KD, and they're fully compatible and will work on them. As you can see, you can add more detail. It's not too hard to do that on a much larger model. The engines that you see here were running at the Mapleton ON30 Hudson meet back in August. I had a layout running with all these, and we were pulling 2-axle cars and some of the 4-axle cars. And one of these engines were, and you don't, again, run huge trains with these, but we were running 4 cars, freight cars, and a caboose. So the power's there. There's our box car. As you can see, based on the ON18, and these will keep evolving and keep growing. Hopefully we'll be able to do what I would like to do with what we're doing on the ON30 box cars, is offer these also with a door that can open. 2-axle. The 2-axle GN15 cars are based off of the Bachmann coach truck. So if you have extra Bachmann coach trucks laying around, you got a GN15 car that's very usable. So we tried to keep it very simple. You pop a coach truck underneath and you can run GN15. A Gilpin style car, that's our own truck that's underneath of it, running ON30 wheels. So we have our ON30 truck running Bachmann ON30 wheels. Most of all of our 2-truck 4-axle cars will come with wheels and trucks. Gondolas, so a full line of rolling stock. the one thing that we are going to do with the GN15 is if you go onto the website to order, they are printed and manufactured at the time of order. So it's about a 10-day wait before they ship out. Usually before 10 days, they'll be shipped out. That is true for anything across the board in GN15. We're doing a line of structures for G-Scale. These are based on Aristocraft drawings and based on Aristocraft measurements. 129. Some go to the 120.3. This is offered right now. We have the station, the small station with the stone base. These can be used inside or outside. If you use them outside, they do have to be painted. But once they're painted, the same life as what the Aristocraft structures have. These are in kit forms. There's the depot, the freight depot. As you can see, it will have a small base to it. The base is as high as what the track is. So if you wanted to do the depot with a hand car, the depot will be the height for the track. There's the freight depot, which sits higher, which has the loading dock that comes with it and a corrugated roof. The tin roof can be weathered or painted if you're going to be putting it outside. All the windows come with printed frosted glass. Typically what I do, I've had a couple of these structures sitting out for about 3 or 4 months outside. I've painted them and they're just rattle can paint. Put the windows in, installed everything, coated it and just sprayed it with, I've used some doll coat and I used regular Krylon mat, and there's been no issues with the structure sitting outside since about the end of May, through that hot spell that we had here on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's mainly the product line. There's a lot of other things that we're offering too that we haven't included here, and it's a lot of detail for all the scales. We have the wood decks for the ON30 and a lot of other things that Ryan has put together, but we decided not to include it in this presentation. But if anybody is interested, you can see everything that we've been working on at this website. It is .square.site. That's where we have all of our products. You can get us on Facebook by just looking up Carroll Creek Design Group. And if you want to get in touch with us, and this is the way most people order things from us, you can go on carrollcreekdesign@gmail.com. Now, one thing we decided to do too is that if anybody that's watching the new tracks, if they use that code NTM910, we'll ship everything out to you for orders over $20, and there'll be no charge for the shipping. And that's within continental United States. So that's the end of our presentation. If anybody has any comments or any recommendations or things that they'd like to see, we'd love to hear from you.
I think it's wonderful you're introducing new products. And as I said in the beginning of the segment, this is historical basis, these quote cottage industries that push the ball forward in our hobby, and it's just wonderful that you're doing it. Yeah.
Well, it keeps me out of my wife's hair, so it's a win-win situation.
Any questions for these two gentlemen?
I don't have any questions, but I do have some comments about the quality and the customer service from these two. They will listen to anything you have to offer, whether it's good or bad, and they're friendly, and they will stand behind their product. And I think that these products that they're designing and making are easily kit bashed into other things that you want to make. I've got some pictures I won't show them tonight where I've taken the GN15 and already put battery power in it and run it on my little small layout with 10-inch radius curves, plus on my big layout. So I did have a little problem with the clearances on the big layout, but not anything that I can't overcome. But I'm enjoying it. I've already kit bashed a couple of the cars, and they're easily painted with rattle cans, and they roll nice. It's just a nice product, and if you want to have some fun, get some of these GN15 cars and the locomotives, and you'll just have a ball fooling with these things, making small layouts. My small layout has a 10-inch radius curve, and it'll take that without any problem at all.
And you can see the details.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Anything else for these two? Well, thank you again for participating this evening, and support Carroll Creek Designs. They support us.
Our pleasure.
And next up, I'm going to have a presentation, but before I do, we're going to run the My Build video and have some words from Chris Corse, who's the director of that segment. Just one moment.
Don't miss the monthly New Tracks Modeling My Build event. My Build is where the modelers of New Tracks show what they have been building. See amazing modeling with some My Builds featuring specific topics for modeling. If you would like to have your models included in the My Build, please email your modeling photos to Chris Corse at railrunner130@hotmail.com. If you are a first-time My Build participant, please include a photo of yourself.
And now if we could spot Chris Corse. Good evening, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Tom. I didn't think I was going to make it. I had a concert to go to tonight, and it got moved. So, anyway, glad to be here. Let's see. Welcome, everyone. The upcoming My Builds. We actually have two challenges in a row. The first one is September 24th. The challenge is backdrops. Please get those submissions to me by September 21st. Anything you can do to fit into that category. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a little something right now for it. It's going to be we're going to have actually a series of kind of Wingo models kits, and I'm going to premiere them at this particular episode. And then in October, on October 22nd, we have Halloween and Oddities. And submission deadline for that is October 19th. The Halloween Oddities show is one that, for whatever reason, it didn't quite make the cut in the voting this year, but we've had so much fun with it, I just decided to put it right back in there. So anyway, if you have not participated before, please include a photo of yourself, and also maybe if you're shy, or maybe you're not going to be able to make the show, please include a description, or if you have not participated in the past and not quite sure how to work the Zoom thing, please include a description of what you're talking about. That way, in the event that you're unable to participate, I can at least talk slightly intelligently about it. So, that's really all I had, Tom. So thanks.
And like Chris says, if you've never given a presentation, one way to apprentice is to submit photos of your work to this program, and Chris will put them in his PowerPoint, and you need only to say the magic words, next slide, next slide, next slide, or provide a description, and he'll do the talking. But I don't think it's beyond anyone that on this show to talk to their own work. Good way to encourage mentoring within, and that's what we're about. So thank you, Chris, and we look forward to your next segment. Okay, now I'm going to have a segment myself, and if you guys can see this. Okay, I assume that's visible to everybody. This is the Mucklerate Mining and Coal Tipple. This funny name is from I grew up in Forest Hills, Pennsylvania, a little borough outside of Pittsburgh, and its original name in the 1700s was Mucklerate. And one of my kindergarten friends, who I'm still in contact with, said, "Hey, you ought to name it after the first name in Forest Hills, Pennsylvania." Well, that's where it came from. A little bit of history that nobody cares about. So this is the coal tipple that I've been working on since early June. And I made it specifically as a contest entry for the National Narrow Gauge Convention. It was just held this past week, and it was very consuming. It took a lot of time, a lot of materials, and I think that was recognized because I took first place in dioramas, and that was my goal, and it was achieved. And I'm very pleased that the attendees recognize the structure. I'm honored. I have over 500 hours in this model. It's the largest model I've ever built and has the most time I've ever dedicated to a model. It has 400 of those nut bolt castings. A lot of people abbreviate those as NPCs. It has 100 custom-made 3D printed brackets, which are similar detail parts. It has over 2,000 pieces of scale lumber. It has extensive LED lighting through it and 2 custom sound units. It features ON30 and ON18 tracks in it. And I'm going to walk you through the entire build process. I started with a rather robust base. This is 3/8 plywood all the way around. The method to my madness was I knew I was going to be driving this to St. Louis from Bloomington in the back of my pickup truck. And I was going to use this base as basically the bottom of my crate. And I didn't want this thing to flex. I knew it was going to be a big model, and I wanted a real substantial base for it. So then I skinned the top of that you just saw there with a 1/8 inch aircraft grade plywood, and the back there is a pit. Of course, like anything I do, it's all madness. There's no real plan other than we build it as we go. So I sketched in a couple of the tracks there, and I just started with the build. First thing I did is I laid in the cork road bed. I took Pico ON30 track, glued that in place, and then I started with the foundation, which are these are nothing more than 1/4 inch sticks put together for 1/2 inch width with tapered ends, and those are the concrete foundations. The intention was to integrate this into the main part of the layout. It was constructed to be the same height as 2-inch foam. So on my layout, if you drop it into the back part of the layout, which basically none of you have seen except for the visitors, this was supposed to be flush with the fascia, which it is, and flush with the 2-inch foam to the right there. But a little help from some friends who visited this past weekend, we made an extension to the layout. Phil Edholm and Jeffrey Jordan, they helped me this past weekend. And I want to point out that Phil does not work slow. He does not work at a medium pace. He works at an extremely fast pace. You can't tell, but on the back of him, he has an on-off switch that just basically runs on high speed. My layout room is above the garage, and there's about 14 steps that lead from the layout room to the laundry room to the basement, or to the garage where my table saw, drill press, and chop saw are. Phil must have made, I don't know, I'm not exaggerating, 40 trips up and down those steps. He literally ran up and down those steps. Amazing guy. And we got it all done. this was the where I'm going to put these modules. The layout's to the right. This is a 2-foot by 4-foot extension. These are basically modules, 2 feet by 4 foot wide. I'm going to put the Len Eberwein stamp mill on one of them, and I'm going to put my coal tipple on the other. And the idea is that at any time you can interchange one for the other, and it gives you a storage unit. And of course, there's a little bit more work to do, but in essence, the bulk of it work is done. So I'm going to show you the build process of the tipple. First thing was I had to make a template. So I took some scrap styrene and made this template. I had to make 15 of these I don't know what you call them, 15 of these supports. One thing when you make a tipple, you see there's a little takeaway here. If where the joints are, where the wood comes together, see right here and here, what you want to do is make a cutout so the glue doesn't stick to the styrene. It's just a neat little trick that I learned. You still have the integrity laying the wood in there, but it won't stick to your styrene. Of course, it depends what kind of glue you use, but I use super glue. So one of the most time-consuming things about this model, besides its sheer size and number of parts, was every single stick was scribed with a razor saw. And there are hundreds and hundreds of these nut bolt washers, and they all have to be drilled, a drop of glue, and a piece placed in there. So there's a finished one, more or less. See the little bolt? So there's bolts everywhere here, and there's 15 of these. Now, for the bottom here, it looked pretty naked to me, that it's sitting on the concrete. So you have two choices. Either these would pass through the concrete, or they would come up with some sort of bracket. So it scared me that I'd have to make so many of these with styrene and then glue a Grant Line piece on there. So I needed a lot of these. And so I have a friend, Andy Root, who has a resin printer. So I gave him this very precise drawing in it, and I sent it to sent it to him, and he did a CAD drawing for me, and he printed these out in resin for me. He lives 2 hours away, and we meet for lunch. We each go an hour, and he gives me a bag full of them. And then I put them on tape, blue tape, masking tape, stick them on there, and then I give them a base coat of a rust color, and then I place them, on. So there's 15 of these. That's why you need the template, because they're all exactly the same, and each one of them have the NBRs on there, the nut bolt washer package, and I tried to make them scale length. So see this, and that's where we had to do some more custom work, as you'll see a little later, for to attach those. After I did the base, the next step was to dream up the tipple. So I, using the 12 by 12 material and all scale lumber, I said I'm going to have dual tipples on here, 2 sides to the story. And so I started building up the tipple, and then each one of these is strip wood. This took a lot of patience and consumed wood like a fire. And once I did one, and I was so relieved I got one done, but then I had another one to do, the other side. But the end just justifies the means. So there's the one side more or less done. If you look real close, you'll see this little connecting piece. This is basically to represent a piece of steel with 2 bolts in it to link the 2 pieces of wood together, give it a realistic look, because this is approximately 20 inches long, and of course lumber doesn't really come that long, so I wanted to break this up into different pieces, and I wanted to connect them with this fastener. And Andy came through for me there. There's the one that's a little closer. You can see this is all weathered, the track, and ballasted, because once this is up, you can't get to it, you know. So here it is developing further. Another look at it. I put this decking on here. My intention is to have an office coming off of here, some sort of building that I was envisioning. Again, there's no plans here. This is just, I just envisioned it story 1, story 2, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. I just kept building it as I went. You can see the graining in the wood. People say, well, that's heavy graining for O scale, but for model making, it really gives it a nice touch. Everything's stained with Hunterline driftwood stain. Next is the on-site office. I made this out of plywood. I'll show you where these go together and how I cut it. This is 1/8 inch aircraft grade plywood, because originally I was going to make my own clapboard siding. That didn't work out. So I don't have the luxury of a laser saw, so I took my Dremel with basically a saw wheel, and I cut without cutting my fingers off. I made these cuts, and then with a file, with a emery board, I squared them off. Totally old school. Every time I do this, I say I'm going to buy a laser. This is it assembled. I box everything with this 1/4 inch material. So this is plywood with 1/4 inch material. This is where it's going to rest. I did a test fit to make sure it looked where I wanted it to go. I envisioned a deck here, some kind of walkway. That was the idea. What's not shown is my failed attempt of making my own clapboard siding. I simply took a flat X-Acto blade and scraped it all off, and used northeastern scale lumber clapboard siding, and cut it to match this, and stained it with Hunterline stain as a base coat. This was an evolving process. I used red acrylic paint to give it, first I put down the Hunterline stain, then I put down a red acrylic paint, diluted a little bit. What I eventually did was I stained it with Hunterline redwood red, and then I went back and used the red acrylic paint, and then with pan pastels I added shading and things. So it was an evolution. I finally came down with a process to take the raw clapboard siding, stain it with the Hunterline redwood stain. Then I would hit it with the acrylic red paint in dry brushes, and then I would put on the pan pastels, and it gave me an acceptable look. After that little bit, I went back to the coal storage bins. Here you see I finished both sides. Now I had to put the ends on with my Imagineering. I did reference a West Virginia coal tipple that this loosely looks like. You see the model shaping up there, and this was its original intention, where it was going to go on the layout, but we've, as I showed you, it's not going there. Now I created these false walls here. I took this cardstock and I cut it in here, and then I veneered it with this strip wood. And I wanted to put, there's looking down at the empty coal bin. I put in a false floor here, about an inch, about 4 to 6 feet below the top of the coal bin. Then I put foam in here that I carved with to simulate coal piles. Then I painted it with Mod Podge because I wanted it sealed. And then I painted it with, when that was dry, I painted it with Elmer's glue, and then I sprinkled coal cinders, coal on there from Woodland Scenics. And you can see it here. See those? You can see the coal. There's the coal there to the right. So I didn't want to fill these with, you know, $50 worth of Woodland Scenics coal, so I made a false bottom. Now I called again on my friend Andy Root to do these elevator carriages to get the coal from the base all the way up to the model in the back of the model. So I did this very precise drawing and texted it to him. And Andy came back with a CAD drawing, which was pretty close to what I wanted. And then I came back and said, put an extension on these for me. I needed a way for this thing to go up and down in a track. So I said, put an extension on me and lower this a little bit and put another bracket here. So this was the original drawing. This is what his first pass of it was. And here was the final. I'll show you those later. I look at this in terms of levels. So the next thing was, now that I had the coal in place, and sorry I jumped. I was kept getting closer and closer to the deadline of this narrow gauge show, and I was running out of time, and I didn't take as many photographs as I should. But in this photo here, you can see that the office building is on. I've put a roof on. This is asphalt paper that I've used in the past. It's glued to a piece of plywood, just like this. This is aircraft grade plywood. I put beams across here first, joists across here. Then I put the plywood down because you'll see the underside of this roof. This is the same technique. This is that northeastern scale lumber, the siding, and I stained it with the redwood hunter line stain, then the red acrylic paint, and then I went on with the pan pastels. I wanted to match the two. Now I wanted this roof is going to be this corrugated steel roofing. It comes silver. This is the real aluminum. I sprayed it with the Tamiya light gray non-filling primer. And then I sprayed it, keep sensitive mouse. Then I did the same technique I've used in the past. I have this is that rust system I have where you spray it with an orange enamel, then paint it with an acrylic. And then I used several Vallejo acrylics with a natural sponge, and I came up with all the sheet material I felt I needed for that particular roof. There's a lot of variation here, and I cut them 1 inch wide by 2 inches deep, so they're basically 4 foot by 8 foot pieces, and you can't really tell here, but there's each one of these, one's dark, one's more orange than the other. There's a variation in the paint in these. Then I put them into 5 different piles. And then when I put the roof on, I randomly put them up here. So you can see the variation in color here. These are the dark ones here. There's some orange ones here. So you don't want this thing to look perfectly uniform. And I super glued these on. You start with the front row. I bent them over the front of that plywood I had there. You can see the joists are exposed. It had a very nice look. And then when it was all done, I sprayed it with dull coat. Everything gets sprayed with dull coat. So now you can see these windows are in. These are Grant Line windows. And I didn't use acetate. I used that micro crystal. I had to tilt the model on its side and with the toothpick fill all these windows, which took a couple of tedious evenings of doing. So these are all microcrystal. Looks like Elmer's glue. I wanted a transparent, but I didn't want you to be able to look inside because I had no intention of detailing the inside. Everything else has this asphalt roofing, this tar paper roof. Electrical. I ordered these lights from Amazon. They're LED lights. They look like a bulb. They're all assembled. They come with a straight wire. I just bent this wire, and they have these very fine wires. Pat Rivard told me how to, you just apply heat to this with your soldering iron, and the plastic just goes away, and you're able to solder. Pat helped me with that about a month ago. I put in a terminal strips, positive and red and black. There's a lot of lights in here, so I needed terminal strips. And for the show, I needed battery powered, which I did. I had a little battery pack that went inside here. When it goes on the layout, it'll go to my, I'll put a direct 12-volt power supply here with resistors to knock that down so I don't burn my LEDs out. But it will be hardwired eventually. But for the show, it had I put a floor in here and a battery pack. And here's the finished Tipple. I have to admit it's a pretty impressive model because of its sheer size. It's 24 inches wide by 23 inches high. It consumed an enormous amount of wood. I wouldn't want to even guess what the quantities were there, what it cost, but I think what really set the model off was all these little details that Andy printed for me. These nut bolt washers, these special brackets everywhere, real high detail items. I wanted a variety of roofs. I just didn't want tar paper roof. I wanted a corrugated roof here. I toyed with having a wooden roof up here, but I just thought it would be nice to match everything. You see little subtle weathering underneath the windows. I used black pan pastels, gave this a light weathering on the front. On the back, this took a lot of time to do this thing. So I had to do, these are the 3 elevators. There's a pit here. So the idea is ON18 bottom dumping hoppers that Andy designed for me specifically because they don't exist. Dump into this pit, dump their coal in there, and these elevators take the coal up and dump it into this building here, which is screens and shakers. And the idea is that there's these ore bins here, these holding, the tipple itself is compartmentalized. So the chutes that lead from the screens and shakers feed 4 different theoretically sizes of coal, or give you the opportunity to give you 4 different sizes of coal. This door is because there's going to be this is a combination tipple and mine. There's going to be a mine that runs out here. So there'll be a timber trestle here. 2 bents will fit onto this part of it. These are removable doors to get, removable wall panels to get to the battery pack and the electrical. They just pop right out. And this ladder will go away. There'll be stairs. I just ran out of time. So there'll be another walkway here and some sort of stairs to get up to this thing. This is looking down the bottom. You can see all the bents here, and each one has these nuts, bolts, and washers. All the wood's scribed, and there's a close-up. Finally, a close-up. These I had Andy make up for me. The devil's in the details. He made these up for me, and he made these. This is the end. This originally was a wooden roof. It looked out of place, so I threw tar paper on there. Put this guy on there. He's looking down the tracks for the train. Just a worker here. I'll bet you guys can guess where I came up with this sign. I did another exercise with ChatGPT 5.0. I gave it the name of the mine. I gave it all that information. Told it I wanted a miner with a pickaxe and a light, a silhouette. About 10 tries later, I got this. But it was perfectly acceptable. I sanded, it was printed on paper. I sanded the back of it till it was almost transparent. Then with Elmer's glue, I stuck it on the side here. You can see those windows. That's a nice effect. That's how it would look in a coal mine, all covered with dust and stuff. That's why I didn't want acetate on there. I thought it was more realistic to use that crystal coat. There's a nice view. I have walkways that run down the center of this model so that if there's some issue, and there's a door at the end here that leads into that office, it's too dark to see it, but they can walk up, around, and down, have a look at all the different bins. Nice detail there of the end wall. These are the conveyor tracks. That's plastic, styrene with, and then 2 strips here. So the idea is that these carriages run up and down, and this is the hoist house up here. If anybody's ever seen the narrow gauge, oh, what is it, out in New Mexico? That's where this is pirated from, the idea. A lot of detail, all these nut bolt washers, if you have the patience, really set the model off. Yeah, oops, sorry. Let's see here. There's a detail on one of those cars. See how it runs up that track. I could probably do a little better job for the fastener here, but I was rushed. You know, some sort of bracket. It's all pretty authentic mechanically. There's a close-up. It works scrutinized under high detail like this. You know, there's the board-by-board construction. It's like you could jump in there, and there's a screen so workers don't fall into the pit. I've got to put the lift devices to lift these up. So the idea is this carriage comes down, these get lifted up, the coal falls into this bucket. These buckets are hinged in the back. And see, this is the ON18 track. It's the width 9 millimeters, same as N scale. There's one of the cars that Andy made for me. I didn't have time to finish them, so I brought one to the show and featured it, but they're just bottom dumping. There isn't such a thing in the market. I needed a bottom dumping ON18 hopper car. They didn't exist anywhere. So Andy was kind enough to make one for me. So there it is again. There's the finished model. There's just a few things left to do to it. I put this fella in here for scale, just to give you an idea of the enormity of this thing. And there's the award. And that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Tom, great model.
Thank you.
Hey, got a question for you. When you applied the Hunter line stains, did you see variation on the various pieces of wood?
Yeah, I did.
I think that adds a lot, to tell you the truth. But did you see that variation before you started using like pan pastels to simulate coal dust and everything?
Well, the funny thing, you should mention that I blasted through a bottle of driftwood.
Yeah.
And then I opened the second bottle and damned if it wasn't a different color, you know, from a different batch. And I was like, oh boy, because I didn't want it to look black and white. It's okay to mix them up as you're building, you know. In
Yeah.
other words, but to have like one side of the building this color and the other side another color. So I literally had to mix underline other colors. I had to mix gray and I had to mix dark brown. I had to mix it to get it pretty much the same color as the original driftwood. That didn't exactly make me a happy camper, to be honest. I agree with what you're saying. You want the variation, but you don't want it to be surprised by the color. In other words,
Yeah.
if you know up front you can mix the sticks, that's one thing. But if you're halfway through the model and then you open up another bottle and it's a completely different color, which it was, I was a little pissed, to be honest with you, you know. But I custom mixed one and I got it really close.
Good. Another question on the, I noticed that all of your track was weathered. What
Yeah.
did you use to weather the track?
The side rails, you mean, or the?
Yeah.
I always do the same thing. I take a Polycorp rust color, and I take a very fine brush and I run
Okay.
it on the side of the. Then I take some of my Vallejo rust colors. There's about 5 of them. And
Hmm.
I randomly paint the rail different colors on the way down. And then before any of that, I usually spray the whole thing with that flat brown. So I take away the plastic sheen of the ties.
Okay.
Then I go back and I hand paint the uh, tie plates a rust color. You know, the rail and the rail spikes are painted a rust color, a reddish color. It's just what I do. But
Okay. Good. Thanks.
any other questions? Well, I was humbled that I won. I was pleased, I have to admit, but it was quite an ordeal making that thing. But hopefully it'll be one of the standout models on my layout.
So just a comment, Tom, and I know you probably have thought about this, but the way we built that structure, it's kind of unique because most places on a layout, you can only see one, maybe 3 sides of it, but you'll actually be able to see all 4 sides because it's kind of on a peninsula.
Yeah.
So that's actually going to be a cool placement in a lot of ways for that.
That's true. And okay, well, next up we have we're going to run a little thing on NewTrax Modeler magazine. I'm going to say a couple words on the magazine, then we're going to switch it to Phil, who's going to do some slides of the layout tours. And Phil, if you'd run that video.
Get more NewTrax modeling by reading the NewTrax Modeler magazine. Each edition of NewTrax Modeler includes exciting articles about modeling shown on the show, other modeling topics, and prototypical railroading information. Other articles focus on outstanding model railroaders and new products from a range of suppliers. Don't miss the photos of the popular NewTrax My Build. You can download NewTrax Modeler for free from the NewTrax Modeling website. Subscribe so you don't miss an issue.
I hope everyone takes the time to subscribe to the magazine. The September issue had over 90 pages. Here's something that we had, Jim Kello had a survey done on on several of the National Model Railroad magazines and ours, independent rating of the magazines, and it was on a 1 to 10 scale, and Model Railroader was a 7. We were actually rated an 8 with our magazine, and Railroad Model Craftsman, which is a fine magazine, was rated 9, and they didn't just give us numbers, they gave us evaluations, several paragraphs, and they basically said that we are hot on the heels of RMC as far as quality of layout, quality of ads, and most importantly, content. And most amusing to me was the fact that Model Railroader has a staff of 20, Railroad Model Craftsman has a staff of about 16. We're a staff of 1 with your contributions and AI. So together, we're putting out basically soon to be the top magazine in the industry. And I believe that if they would have rated the September issue instead of the August issue, I mean, all the issues are good, but we're getting progressively better. The September issue, I have a feeling, would have been on par, and who knows, with the RMC. So that just made me personally feel good, and it should make you feel good because I take your PowerPoints and turn them into articles, and that speaks volumes for the work that you do on your PowerPoints and the quality of the product that we ultimately release to the public. So thank you for your continued contributions. So next, I would like to have Phil, and he'll take over here. Phil?
Hey, thank you, Tom. So we will, let me basically, we're good. We're all good. So tonight we're going to go through a set of pictures of the models that were at the narrow gauge convention. The thought process was let everybody have a chance to see those, kind of talk about them, make comments, etc. There's some pretty amazing models. The narrow gauge convention, it is limited to narrow gauge, but what you really do is you have a lot of very good modelers focused on some very specific topics. So anyway, we'll kind of look at these. I did miss one theme. There was an animation, and there was actually a really cute junkyard repair facility. And at this time, I thought I had a video of it, but I can't find it. So if I find that, I'll show it to you at some future time. So the first thing was they had a square foot challenge. So this is a square foot model of a challenge of junkyard for the model. And in fact, I think this one was best in that category, but just an amazing amount of detail on a hill for a square foot. I don't know if you, by the way, Tom, and I'm going to actually de-spotlight myself because let other people comment who, folks who saw this and went to the show, make a comment on any of these that you'd like to. Or by the way, anyone in the audience can comment on it. I just thought it was an amazing amount of detail and a very good representation of what I would have imagined an old beater junkyard to have looked like. So here's another one. Interpretation of a junkyard.
Is that a Carroll Creek locomotive, I wonder?
I don't know. Didn't
Bob?
ask. Yeah, there were a number of folks that did have different pieces from you guys too, that did comment on that. So, I mean, it's kind of a different, it's a very interesting interpretation from, this to this. The scale is a little different as well, a little smaller, but a bit more active. And then one that's a little less active, in terms of volume of details, etc. And this was a different interpretation, obviously, just the square foot. So,
Which is interesting. Harrisburg, we have the 5x5, which is switching to a 7x7 next year.
yep. Well, square foot lets you do quite a bit in it. So this was, I think, more of, the junkyard in Cuba or something like that. So anyway, then we go to dioramas. And there were a number of very nice dioramas.
This one you can't really tell the size of this, but this was, I don't know if it was N scale. It was tiny. HO scale, maybe?
Well, you can, if you look, this is a sheet of paper that it's sitting on.
Yeah.
So, that's 8.5 inches. So the whole thing is about 12 inches wide. So it's about a foot by 6 inches. So yeah, it's fairly small scale, probably it's at least HO.
Yeah.
And there were, one of the things, there were a lot of HON3 modelers in the area. That was one feeling. A lot of the number of the layouts were HON3, and you're going to see the layouts. You'll see them as cabooses after we get through the ones from the NMRA convention. So you'll just have to wait. But yeah, so there was a lot of very good HON3, or actually HO modeling, and a number of the structures you'll see are HO models. And you saw Tom's cooling tower. It looked very nice there. Again, you almost can't see the scale except for you notice the piece of paper down at the bottom, how much smaller it is in the type font. So that's really the only way you can tell scale on this. So, and this was another diorama that was kind of, and I'm not sure that this wasn't two that were put together, and I may have photographed them together, but I thought for some reason, I thought they were more together than that. So
They were, that's part of the same guy, same diorama.
same diorama.
Yeah, that was a nice, very nice model. The quality of models in the dioramas, there must have been 20 of them.
Yeah, there are a large number. I didn't get any pictures, by the way, unfortunately, of the modular layout. So I have to wait for next year to see those. This was an interesting little bit of railroad theme, but very much focused on, well drilling kind of. Well drilling or mining, I guess. I don't know which.
The Midwest modelers seem to be a lot of HON3 modelers out there. And they were just amazing master modelers. The quality of modeling in those layout tours was stunning.
Yeah, it's very good. Very good modelers. And another one here. This again, I think this is HO again. You can kind of judge by the size. I think it's HO. I'm not sure.
No, this was HO for sure.
But yeah, great detail. And nice water tank, very, very well done. There was actually a clinic on coloring your water tanks. So kind of a focus skill. Well, this is very, I thought it was very well done. A gold mine processing building, and I don't think I got an interior picture. I apologize for that. So probably worth doing. This was another structure as a, kind of machine shop, car shop. And, see a number of structures because it's, big enough scale that you can have, belt drives and actually have all the components for your system. And was quite impressive when you looked at it. So then we go, those were the dioramas. And so then we move on to structures. Nobody's saying anything. I've got to get you guys to start speaking here. So this was a single structure, but was had different pieces that went together, so they were kind of spread out this way, but was put in the contest as a single structure. So, and it was quite impressive.
I believe this is HO. I think this is HO too.
Yeah, I think it's HO also, exactly. And it shows one of the things of the beauty of the scale that if you did not know, it would have been huge. So one of the challenges. This, I think this is HO also. But this was, no, this may actually be
That one I think
maybe
was,
SN3 even or something. Have to look at it. Anyway, I get a very nice model, and so kind of interesting because that it allows you on a layout to have this interesting diagonal structure of your roads to kind of something that would limit the depth of the buildings. And I thought that was, clearly a model that was built to go in a very specific location on a layout, but because by taking, I thought that, something you see, one of the things I love about going to a contest like this or people's layouts is you see things that you can kind of note them, and then at some point in the future, if you have a problem, they may come back to you. And I thought the idea of putting something that was a focus on the diagonal like that at the 45-degree angle of the rest of the building, so now you actually get away from everything being square, was a really innovative thought process. So anyway, I don't know if you guys saw that. I thought it was pretty cool. This was actually a model we got out from the PCR that did very well in the NMRA judging. It's a model of the West Side Lumber Company power mill when they were installing 2 new vertical boilers, and it's actually like 3,000 pieces and totally 100% to the prototype plans. So the guy that did this actually has redone from the West Side accurate plans of what was actually built as a boiler room and what it looked like through the years. He built this model. It's a pretty amazing model. This one again, just all very nice models, whether they're small or large models, as Tom said. The quality of the models is very good, but one of the things is we haven't seen anything that looks in any way like a container based product. So everything you see is kind of intended to look like it's 30 or 40 years old. So another nice structure. I thought this one of the things that they did was a very good job of getting the streakiness of the rust and kind of the variation in colors there. I thought were really good. And then especially the fact that they got that horizontal factor that you tend to get more rust lower down on the panels a lot of times. So I thought very nice. This was a very nice model. Smaller machine shop. I mean, you can really see that, folks that build these models like Pat does, when you look at Pat's layout, these are the kind of models you see on Pat's layout. And I think it kind of carries off through the community because you're not modeling things that are large. Therefore, you can model things that are smaller and have more detail. And I think that's part of the narrow gauge, thing. The communities were smaller, the buildings were smaller because you now can model them larger. You can have a lot of detail, kind of regardless of what scale you're in, but relative to the bigger set, the big city. So this was another very nice model that you could turn the light on inside and see the Wells Fargo in the interior of the Wells Fargo Express. Not really a bank at that point. I think that became more later. So I think a very well done model. A nice kind of offset bridge.
oh yeah. Phil, that Wells Fargo might have been a G scale model. It was huge, if I recall.
Yeah, I think it was. I think you're right. It might have been G scale. It probably was.
It was immense. That thing was like,
So
yeah.
So basically half again O scale, so twice the size of O scale. So then again, you can see the amount of detail you can have inside that you kind of see all the dishes in the background. Yeah, I think I took that picture because it was such great detail. I was really hustling because I think we were going somewhere when I was doing this, or it was between clinics. This was I thought was a well done bridge model, representing the kind of typical lightweight bridges you saw in the first generation of bridges across rivers. This was actually, you could see because the sheet of paper That's 8.5 inches or 8.5 inches. So if you kind of look at this, it's about 4.5 times that. So, you're sitting out there. This was 30, 32, maybe even 34 inches long, something like that, and a very well detailed transfer for a cattle transfer from one system to another. So I thought that was an interesting model and a way to model something between, for example, standard gauge and narrow gauge on your layout. And then Tom actually had a different model there that he entered as a structure model that was a model of a coal mine. And this is a model that is virtually impossible to show a picture of, because I took a picture you can see on the left. I don't know how tall it is. It's probably 36 inches tall or 30 inches tall, Pat, Tom?
3 feet.
3 feet. And so it's very interesting, kind of detailed underground that you see in the middle of the picture. And again, you kind of see the paper on the bottom for scale. So, it's probably 4.5, 5 inches across.
So 5 by 5, and this was the model that took first place at the Harrisburg show, and it took third.
This is the 5 by 5. That's right.
This took first place in Harrisburg and third place at this show.
Yeah. And so then kind of a picture of what's up on the top, and the same kind of structure that you saw actually in the coal tipple, but at a smaller scale. So again, a pretty cool model. So, and then there was a lumber company. So again, a lot of models that you tended to see that you could see where people could find a place on their layout for them that would fit in a narrow gauge context. And that was one of the things that is very nice. Is also neat is that most of the models you see are models that are probably intended to go on a layout at some point. But this was again a really nice model, and you could see the amount of detail he put on the inside. And we saw this in a number of the layouts too, where the foreground models had actually really good detail that you could look into windows and see. And part of that is picking the right thing to model, the right prototype structure. So by picking a prototype structure that actually has big windows, he was able to do the barber shop right on the corner, and then have all the specific details that you'd have in a barber shop. So that's becomes a pretty cool model.
Phil, didn't you say that the NMRA national contest, not the narrow gauge, but just straight up NMRA contest, you have to model the interior or you get deducts? Is that correct?
No, you don't have to. But
Oh.
it's one of those things that, depending on the size of the model, if you build a small model, the complexity of the model is not high. So one of the things you're judged on is the complexity of the model and and what is in it. So if you build a small model and you don't do an interior, then it's not complex. It doesn't have a large number of parts or detail parts. So if you have a bigger model without an interior, it may mitigate that. So it really depends a lot on kind of how the model is and what it's built of.
Okay.
But I think interiors, if you look at the coal tower you built, not having an interior in that probably is not a negative, because the rest of the model has enough complexity and number of parts in it that would completely offset it. But if you look at a small structure like this, not having an interior probably makes it, and again, you got to think about this. We're all modelers. It's not about judging people. The NMRA contest is not about judging people in an arbitrary way. It's saying, if you're an experienced modeler, so if you're an experienced modeler to build structures, what would you expect somebody to do to prove that they were experienced? And so, one of the things is, how complex is the structure to build? The more complex it is, the more you have to be a talented modeler to do it. So it's that kind of concept, right? So if it's a smaller structure and you do a full interior, you get more credit for it than if you don't. But if it's a bigger structure, anyway, enough said.
Fair enough.
So But one of the things that's just great about it is there's lots of models here that I think are well worth looking at. This, I want to say that this model is the guy who I think did what's the guy does fast tracks?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Anyway, anybody knows, you can. This was a very nice model with a really cool interior and looked like very well kind of thought out of a bait shop. This one I took a picture of the interior because I think this was an N scale and thought it was pretty amazing. It may be HO may be corrected on that, but one of the things we've always had is a Halloween contest, Halloween my build. And this could definitely be, I think, in a Halloween my build. So, and you kind of see the size based on the push button over here on the left side.
Yeah, that really looks like it has to be N scale.
I think it was N. I remember
just looking at the paper there. The paper's 8.5, and that's less than half the paper, so it's only 4 inches wide.
Right.
Yeah,
it was. Well, like I said, I thought that was a pretty amazing small model for the scale. So that's why I took a picture of when I try to take a picture of the interior when they're really impressive what they've done in the interior, because I know one of these we've had interest in is doing interiors of people's kits. So this was a model of a scale, and I thought, and again, it was pretty neat. It actually seemed to rock as they went over it, so there's some movement built into it. I think this was the structure that was the #1 structure. And by the way, this is, so one of the things is that this is not a judged contest like NMRA. It's a popular vote contest. And one of the things that you kind of tell that people like are these old machine shops with belt drives and that. I mean, just imagine if people who really like the way the EBT looked were judging contests, they'd say that looks like a great model. So this is absolutely a perfect model for the narrow gauge convention.
That's amazing there.
I mean, it's just, you look in there, it's just an amazing model when you look at all the belt drives and all the tools and just all the details that are there, and you realize that's probably exactly what you would have seen if you took a picture of that shop in 1890, 1880, 1890, something like that, right? Kind of the turn of the century. And it's not like it's anything dramatic. It's what you would have seen just about anywhere. Saying a small machine job like that was accessible by rail, could do some, because that makes it rail served. Has doors that you can use to close it off, but it's open so that it doesn't get too hot.
See the wind vane? See the wind vane in the upper right? Is it
Yep.
Up high?
Yeah. Again, it's a very well done. And so it's, you see a lot of modeling to a very high standard, and putting the belts together and getting all the pieces, it's quite impressive. So the biggest focus this year, and I think this is true to a great extent, and by the way, it's probably indicative of all of us, is structures and dioramas were really big areas in terms of the number of entrants. There were not nearly as many entrants in engines, so if you wanted to bring home a contest plaque, this was where you wanted to be. This was a little cog engine. Incredibly cute, incredibly well done. By the way, Bachmann normally gives a NMRA award for the kit bash model based on Bachmann components that was the best in there. And as I remember correctly, they said they did not give it this year because there were no models that actually had enough Bachmann components in them. So that was an interesting commentary on kind of this category. And I think what it represents is a lot of people who already have bought their Bachmann locomotives and have them running on their layouts. This was an interesting locomotive because this is actually a Lego model. So this is a Lego model of a what is it? It's a K. Was it K38? I think.
What do you guys
And
do you think this should, I just want an opinion from narrow gaugers and non-narrow gaugers. Do you think this should be in a model contest or not? Just let's hear from a few people. I say no.
Yeah, I don't think so. Did
I
there
say no.
a run?
oh, yeah. So wait a second. So it's a kit. It's a. I want to take the contrary position just because I think we should have one.
Is it a kit or did he print the blocks?
No, it's a kit.
I think it's a kit. I think it's one that Lego makes probably. They do a lot of these where they do a custom thing. So assuming that's what it is, assuming that it's a kit you buy from Lego.
What's the skill in putting it together?
Yeah.
Other than you can put it
You got to
together.
put all, but what's the skill in putting any kit together? I mean, it's not necessarily a scratch building contest, right? That's the whole perspective here. I mean, there were a number of kits that were built there.
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of whimsical and interesting.
I'd say
I mean, look at how much detail. I mean, what's interesting is to look at how much detail they built to take what is a standardized square brick and build something that, until you look at it at a second look, if you just kind of glance at it, you don't really realize that it's a Lego model.
I don't.
Yeah. I think it should be in a category by itself, maybe something whimsical. One of our fellows at the Narrow Gauge National, he won, and it was a bear that had chased a fellow up a set of crossbucks after his fish. He had been fishing, and that was whimsical. So I think maybe that's where this might belong.
I think part of the problem that some people might have with it is because it's using Legos, it's not exactly scale modeling. And most of us try to do scale modeling, whether we actually achieve it by getting everything very well representative in a smaller format, or we missed the mark because we goofed on one thing or another. We're attempting to make scale modeling. And when you're using Legos, you've thrown away that attempt. I like this, and you know, I'm kind of happy to see it entered, but I think it's missing out on the attempt to be scale modeling.
So here's an interesting. Can I give you guys an interesting observation? What you've basically said is an NMRA view, right? Which is, as a scale model, it falls short of the mark. As a skill to build it, it falls short of the mark. But what's interesting is when you have a popular vote contest and there's a category and you kind of have to say, well, that kind of is what's in the category. It doesn't have anything that says anything about scale. And there's first, second, and third place. There's only 2 entries. The Lego model got second place.
I know, but that's
but I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's an entirely different subject when there's no entries and everybody wins. It's like a, you know, I don't know.
But it was an interesting thing because I noticed it actually the first time I looked at the table. I was about 5 feet away, and I didn't realize it was a Lego model. I didn't actually realize it was a Lego model until I got close enough to take a picture of it. I looked first at the running gear, and it was like that looks, and then I realized it's plastic and it's Lego, and then I read the card, which says it clearly says on the card it's a Lego model.
I know. I just think it's the toy train category. Fine.
For what it's worth, I just Googled it and found that it is indeed a kit. It's comprised of 1,628 Lego parts. Just 8 of them are custom made. There are apparently businesses that will custom make Lego parts for you. So there are 8 custom made parts and 4 modified parts. The rest of it is a huge quantity of stock available Lego parts. And if you want to build one for yourself, you can buy the instructions.
Well, then it should be marked Kit Bash, not Scratch Build.
Yeah, that's wow.
It should be marked toy model train.
Yeah. With 1,628 parts and only about 11 of them not standard Lego parts, I think it's very hard to call that a scratch build.
But it's certainly not fair to call it easy either.
I think it's fair to call
1,628 parts. Probably spent
Yeah.
a long time snapping together Lego parts.
Anyway,
maybe a 12-year-old to do it.
guy, this was actually a brilliant discussion because it's such an interesting question about our hobbies changed, because I think the guy that did this was a younger modeler. I don't know how that young, but it's an interesting thing because I never would have in any way imagined that you could build a locomotive like that out of Lego parts. Anyway, enough said. This bus was actually very well received. It was a cute little bus in other motive power. There were only a couple of geared engines. And unfortunately, these pictures just don't do these locomotives justice. Some of them are very well done. This is a 3-truck Shay. This is a little, I think, a Porter. And then I think this was a 2-truck. What was it? Maybe an HON.
That's one of Bob and Ryan's, isn't it?
Yeah, that's ours, and the one before that was ours. That's our Porter.
These are both
and
yours.
Shay. Yeah.
By the way, speak up, guys. If one of these is yours, don't. In any way, I don't know. I don't recognize them, so that's good.
Well, I recognize their Shay because I have one of those, but I need to put that pipe on it like they did. I like that.
Yeah, that's a really good addition.
I don't know what the pipe's for, but I like it.
if anybody wants any of these pictures, let me know. You know, if you're for you guys, if you want them, let me know which ones they were. This is slide 43 and 44. I'm sure they wouldn't mind you having them, but I don't. You can have them.
We would like to have them.
I think the Shay, I think that was Art Bloomer's. I'm not. I think
that probably was.
This is Art. This is Art Bloomer's right here. That's Art.
Yeah. And he may have better pictures. Like I said, these were taken with an iPhone, literally walking around going click, 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 click.
This took second and the other one took first. I honestly thought it should be reversed. I thought this one would be first. That took first and the other one took second. I thought Art's
third, first, and second.
I thought Art should be first, to be honest. It just looks more interesting, my opinion.
So this is the logging category, and the thing that I love about this, I'm not modeling a logging area, but you get to see these great interpretations of these logging skids and hoists and stuff. And this was very well done. And I don't even remember which one was voted which in the category. So if somebody knows, you can speak up. This was actually G scale, F scale. I don't know if it's probably 1/22nd scale. So it was large. That's probably, I don't know. Tom, you were saying it was probably about what, 24 inches tall?
Yeah, this is Art Bloomer's.
Yeah.
And I think it's G or what is it? I forget. F scale. F scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful model. Number 47, if I remember.
Yeah. And it brings back that concept of, when you go from 148 to probably what 122.5, you're getting this amazing tripling of the availability of detail. And the amount of detail on this, when you get down close to it and look at it, it's not fair. I didn't get a bit closer picture. It's just quite amazing.
This model's stunning in person. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it kind of shows it, but you got to think about the logging scene. To model this on a model railroad, you'd have to have a fairly large logging scene. I mean, like probably 8x8. So unfortunately, I apologize. The light you see on the right there, this was on a mirror, and it was a fairly large mirror. And I didn't realize my phone caught the light to the right and it just washed it out completely. But this was, I think it was ON3. It may have been ON30, but I think it was more ON3. And it was just a very well done interpretation of a log car, kind of, very well laid out and very well done. And then the Caboose category.
Caboose. New word.
And yep, exactly, the Cabooses. And so one of the things that's interesting here is there are a lot of you see this in the cabooses or caboose, whichever you like, and passenger cars. There are a lot of nice interiors as well.
I attended a conference on a scratch building a caboose. It was he didn't enter it for some reason, but it was absolutely amazing. I think Jeff Jordan, you were on
Yes,
that.
yes, I saw that as well. I can't give it to you right now, but I have a photograph of it.
I mean, it was amazing, don't you think?
Yes, extraordinary model.
Really was.
And it was very informative to see him explain how he built it step by step.
This is a rolling honeypot, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is. It's not really a caboose.
Not really a caboose, yeah.
Has a trailing statement to it, but it's not really a caboose. But anyway, yeah. It's but you know, again, this one here, if you look at it, I think this is size wise, it is probably it's probably 0 or 0 I don't really know which. But you know, just an amazing amount of interior detail on it that you can see. And this one, of course, a little whimsical, but very well done. Another one, of course, narrow gauge extending to the Rio Grande, which ran into the late 60s, 70s. It starts looking a lot more like what you'd think of as almost semi-modern. So, kind of a much more modern interpretation with Rio Grande. So a little bit of a span there. Not all the narrow gauges, 1930s, some can be 1950s. There were a lot of freight cars and some very nice ones. And I think this one may have been one that had just amazing. There was one with a really amazing undercarriage. I think it took first place. But I don't know, I had the picture of the undercarriage. And some are scratch built, some are are more cute, more look like they're kit interpretations, but then they're very well done. So
our Martin Breckbell, his models, if you recall, over the past 2 or 3 years, would really do well.
Yep. But again, this is a nice one that's got the baggage car with the full interior and has lighting set up installed in it, etc. So a scratch built paint car. I think this one may have been a kit as I remember correctly, but which is perfectly acceptable. This is a very complex model. Even if you start building it from a kit, the advantage you get there is you've got some of the wood maybe pre-cut, and then you've got some decals, but beyond that, you still have an awful lot of work to make that model look nice.
It's clearly not Legos.
And this is a neat ore transport car, a little bit heavier duty and different design than a lot of the ones we see. And because it's got two trucks that have one of the things I noticed with this was because it's got two different trucks that are actually not connected because the damper in the middle goes down and they're actually pin connected. They've got two sets of brake wheels. And I didn't remember if it actually was from a prototype. I think it was. And then of course the pin couplers on the end.
Yeah, I think that ore car is a model from the Gilpin.
From the Gilpin. That's very small then. That's why it was smaller scale. Yeah, the G would make sense. 102, that's good.
Yeah,
so I want you guys to say something more. I didn't spend a huge amount of time studying each model because you guys can see there's a lot of models there. Yeah. And they are very much within a category. I mean, there are a lot of things you see at an NMRA convention, you know, that maybe something from the 80s or 90s, or even, you know, are almost modern, where here everything really is from a certain time period, because narrow gauge was only operated in certain time periods. So I went by that one fast. That probably wasn't fair. That's actually a scratch built car. I thought this was, again, it was some of these are very well done.
See the wood that's worn there, that's really a nice touch.
Yep. Well, wearing it down before you put the posts on, so that it's kind of the post sticking up and looking like you've lost some boards, getting some variability is very interesting.
Yeah.
And this is obviously a very small car. This is the very small ore gondola. And then there are passenger cars. And this one did not seem to open up and have an interior, may have though, but was in very well detailed. This is a fairly, if I remember correctly, it was a fairly large model. It may have been, you see the length of the sheet of paper. It may have been a G scale model, but it had just very great, very nicely done detail. You know, and looked like a car that would look like it had been maintained or had been recently put in service. So it was very nice. And this, again, like with the, you know, the Caboose, having a complete interior is pretty interesting, is very much a part of the car. So
that's nice.
This was, I think this one lit up, but I'm not sure. I pushed the button to light it up on the interior. They didn't have the roof off, but I think it lit up and you could see the interior with the you know, the passengers, etc. And this one, unfortunately, same problem with the light. Just the way the sun came in behind it kind of washed it out. But this was you know, a very different kind of passenger car than the kind of more traditional narrow gauge car that typically has this kind of look, the, you know, clustery end look, where this is just a rounded roof. And then they had maintenance way cars. And so this was a very nicely done, I guess, crew car. And it was nice to have the door open. You could see the parts of the interior. Though this one the roof wasn't off, so I think it may have been more, you know, more simple inside, but just to make it look like, you know, that it was actually not a model of, you know, modeled head interior. Very, very nice. I think this, again, I think was O. So it may have been HO. I don't really remember. Do you guys, anybody remember this
I'm
size?
pretty sure it's O scale. It was pretty big.
I'm pretty sure it was O. And the detail level looks pretty much like O scale. Yes, there are a number of this is, again, a fairly complex model and very nice model.
That was a pile driver, I think, wasn't it?
Yep,
Yeah, that's a pile. No, it's a pile driver. Yeah, it folds up. You can see how it kind of folds up. I should have said that. A crane car. Yeah, very, very nice. And the steam engine on the other end. This was one, when I was putting this together, I realized I stood way too far back, and I'm glad it stayed in focus. This is SN3. And it's an operating maintenance away car. It runs. Now it's kit built, so it comes from a brass kit. But I still thought that was a pretty amazingly small, cool little model.
The figure is pretty neat there.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Having things to run around your layout. This was an yeah.
This a Frenchman River model?
It's a Frenchman and
just the hull, just the
no, it actually they sell this as a there's a name for them. They were inland trawlers in England. And they made
a puffer.
Puffers, that's right. The
Yeah,
puffer.
That's Al Collins's model. He really
Al Collins's model. And he actually, this is actually the one he built.
Yeah.
So, and it's stunning because if you look, the hold opens up, and then I think it was the best of this category of models. The hold is open. It's got coal in it, and they've got a bucket of coal they're offloading, which is just perfect.
It's a great looking. I talked to the guy that built it. Just said, this is just very, very impressive.
Yeah.
He also built that little rail bus, and Bachman gave him an award for it because they used the drive out of the work goose.
He told me the cabin on this. He said the difference between the American, Canadian versus the British is, I think the British put this cabin, up top there in front of the smokestack so we can see what's going on. And for some reason, the Brits put it in the behind.
That's right. I tried to get him to put it around and make it North American, but
yeah, that's what he told me. So I thought, why would you put the smokestack in front of where you need to see? Just an idea,
Maybe that was their means of getting heat.
Yeah.
Or crashing into things, one or the other.
It probably related to boiler position.
Why? I don't know.
And they probably there's probably for some reason they had to put the boiler at a certain point, and if you move the stack behind, you'd have a turn, and they probably didn't want the turn. They wanted more direct output. The only reason I can think is that you wouldn't logically put it there if you had a choice. I wouldn't think.
Remember, these are the guys that gave us British Leyland cars.
Yeah. No, I understand. Anyway, it would be interesting to go understand why that is the case. But anyway, this was a very nice model. So not a purely railroad model, but that's kind of the whole category. And another pile driver. That's very well done models. So that's the last of the models. I did not take individual photos of the photos. I couldn't do it. I thought about it and decided that didn't make sense. So I took some larger photos, and then what I've done is I've taken those and kind of cropped them so you get a kind of idea of what the subjects are of the photos that were there. I think one of the things about this is, for those of you who haven't gone, I'll put the thing up at the end. Next year, the convention is going to be in Minnesota. That sounds close if you're Canadian. So, one of the things is, for those of you that are narrow gaugers, be great to come. Be kind of cool to get a larger group of folks together next year. So anyway, these are some of the model photos. So the first group, we're going to go through our model photos, then we'll go through the prototype photos. This
was the most competitive thing at the show. There must have been 30 or 40 of these things. It was insane.
Yeah, you'll see. It's so, but like you look at that photo on the left, that's a model photo. And again, you're not going to be able to see it with the picture I take of the picture and get an idea of it. When you come up and look at some of these up close, and then you kind of begin to realize, oh yeah, that's right. That's a painted backdrop that I'm looking at. But one of the beauties is when you take some of our modeling and do it in black and white, the colors sometimes are the hardest things to manage, but when they become gray, they actually blend in much more effectively. So some of these black and white photos were actually, I thought, very well done. And these were all model photos here. And some of these you can see, you know, from some of the things we've had in the past, of the nightshades, the diner scene. This is someone who built that model. Not sure if it was from the kid or not.
I think it actually said on the card that it was scratch built.
I think you're right. I think you may be right. So somebody built it and themselves. That was Wit and Wisdom did that, but they did it no scale. And I'm not sure that it was was what it was. It may have been someone who actually built their own version of it, and maybe just built that part to take this picture.
And they added a number of details. You can't really see in the photograph that there's things like ketchup and mustard dispensers and salt shakers and so forth on that counter. There was a lot going on the counter, and the coffee urns in the back are not the same as the one that comes in the model.
That's interesting.
Because I built the O scale Wit and Wisdom.
You built the O scale one, yep. That's interesting. So this one, their interpretation was to make it more detailed because you could see it in their picture. That's interesting.
Boomer Diorama from Canada actually did scratch build that in HO scale, and he's got a wonderful video on YouTube kind of showing every little detail that he handmade from scratch pieces of styrene. It's really incredible.
The guy that won this category took first, second, and third.
Yeah, that was in the black and white. That was Keith. That was Keith Stamper.
Yep. So anyway, that was those are all the photos, our final group of photos of the model photos.
That's mine in the upper right.
Yeah, that's Tom's there. This is
one took first.
Okay, and here we go into prototype photos. And again, this is a photo of a block together. And I apologize, I didn't realize when I took this that I had the reflection of some lights in the middle. But some great prototype photos. You know, one of the things that I love about seeing prototype photos like this, when you look at a convention like this, a very small percentage of the people live in Colorado, especially, which kind of means people are getting out and traveling, which is it's really good to see. It's another good reason to be a model railroader is to go places to take prototype photos. If you happen to be a narrow gauge, you're going to some kind of cool places. So some very nice prototype photos of narrow gauge or kind of that kind of engine out there. I went pretty fast past that one there. I mean, the thing that's interesting is most of those engines, they've been taken fairly recently, these photos. So, you know, they're showing you things that you actually can see today.
Yeah, the one on the left is the Cumbres and Toltec coming out of the tunnel right by the Garfield Memorial.
So, and you know, one of the cool things is that, and unfortunately we didn't have time to do this, is you can actually look at the photos and they generally write where they were taken. So it gives you some thought process. If you ever take a trip somewhere, what are some interesting places to go to? Though I think on the Commerce to Toltec, we did one of those photo trains last year or a couple of years ago when they were in Denver, and that's actually a lot of fun. They stop at different places. Or you can do what Jeff did and do the cab ride. So, yeah, there were a lot of photographs. There were, you know, as Tom said, well, you guys can go through and count these, but there were at least 40, maybe 50 photographs that were brought, which is pretty typical for a narrow gauge convention. It's, folks that are getting out and taking pictures and seeing things that are happening and going on. So, and on the right, you see the, I think that may be that prototype for that pile driver.
Yeah.
Earlier. So that's all.
Excellent. Great job.
I put this up because, this is one of those things is, all of us, if we don't think about it now, you don't plan for it. And then other things in your life come up and you say, oh, shoot, I wanted to do that. Something else came up. So the next year, September 2 to 6, 2nd to the 6th, it's in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it's actually at a place that's right down there by the airport on the south side of Minneapolis. So, for those who fly in, it's easy to get to. For those of you that live, kind of in that northeast, center east area there, go check it out because, it's a great place to get together. And if we've got a number of us going ahead of time, we know we can figure out how to get there and do it together. So anyway, Tom, that's it. I'll leave it to Jeff or Rich, who was there.
I sent you an email with a link to a file with 16 module photos.
Oh, cool. I'll put them together and put them in. I have a video I did of the, I realized this, that I did a video of kind of walking around the vendor floor on the Zoom with my NMRA division. And I'll get that and pull that piece out and I'll put it in as one of our cabooses at some point for folks who want to see. I thought the vendor sales floor was fairly well attended, which is of course indicative of the fact it's in the middle of the country or closer even to the East Coast. So by Pittsburgh actually I thought was better because it was even closer to the Northeast and a lot of the manufacturing companies. So Minneapolis, I think, should be very good. There are a lot of companies in in that area. There may be Canadian companies that come over.
Well, we ran pretty late today, and very interesting program, Phil. Thank you. And there'll be more videos, as Phil says, on the layout tour. You're going to see some of the most amazing modeling that I've ever seen. Most of it seems to be HON3 and a couple outstanding HO layouts, just standard gauge, were just absolutely amazing. So Father Ron is not with us this evening. If I guess we can run his video and then I don't think we'll run a caboose this evening. Yeah.
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationship with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you, Father Ron, Master Modeler. Okay, folks, we'll see you next week, same bat channel, same bat time. And thanks for participating.